All right, hello and welcome. We are live here on the Sports Animal YouTube. This is Unadvised. I am Preston Poole. That is Tyler Adams Teabag. You can follow us on Twitter at Preston Poole 405 at Tyler's Takes. A lot of sports to get into. We're going to get into fantasy football as well. But Teabag, what's on your mind this lovely evening?
Oh, nothing much. Not nothing. All is quiet. All is quiet in the sports world right now. But that just means the calm before the storm because football does start this weekend. And, it's definitely one of those things where I'm excited. I'm excited football is going to be on my TV this weekend. But let's be real. Football starts in a week. Football starts a week from today, Thursday. That's week 1. That's when real football starts.
Yeah, week 0 this weekend. I think it's week 0 next week is week 0 for high school football. And then after that, they get started week 1. I'm going to be out watching some football tomorrow down in Chickasha. The Blanchard Lions are going to be scrimmaging. Did you have any scrimmages like this in high school? So it's going to be Blanchard, Chickasha, Noble, and Ardmore, I believe, all in the same scrimmage.
Yeah, we did stuff like that. Team camps too, where you practice with like 5 other teams. Yeah.
I was just curious because I never played football growing up. I just didn't care about doing that. So I was just curious about that. But yeah, I'm going to be down in Chickasha checking out a couple football teams down there. Obviously, I'll be following the Blanchard Lions around all season. So football, like you said, we're getting started here this week officially for college football. But yeah, next week is the real week 1 because there's only one decent game, I would say. Florida State, Georgia Tech in Dublin, Ireland. That's an 11 a.m. kick this Saturday. Big news, I guess, in the state to start this off. Bedlam is back. It didn't go anywhere, but it's back, and only for basketball though. 2 Bedlam basketball, or I should say, just the men's teams. I think. I don't know if the women's are scheduled, but they'll be playing December 14th at Paycom Center in Oklahoma City. So Bedlam is still here for basketball, at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's the right move because as much as we can sit here and say that we need it in football, the reality is you don't need it as much in football because football is going to revenue money no matter what, especially when your programs like OU and the SEC and OSU, who's built up a consistent program in the Big 12. But in these other sports, these non-revenue sports, Bedlam is a must for all the sports because you got to try to sell as many tickets as you can. And the best way to sell tickets is to play Bedlam inside the state. Basketball, too, is I think it's – and I think a lot of people around here maybe agree with this, and I think we're all biased. It's not just an OSU thing. It's not just an OU thing. It's a Bedlam thing with us. I think Bedlam basketball is one of the more underrated basketball rivalries in the country. It hasn't been as much lately because OSU and OU have both just been absolutely terrible over the last 7-8 years. Since 2018, they made it the tournament, maybe a combined 3 times. So just hasn't been that good around here. But if you're going back, to the 80s, to the 90s, and 2000s with Eddie Sutton and Billy Tubbs and Kelvin Sampson, there's been some big time battles between Bedlam basketball. Even in some of these smaller, even when the teams aren't that good, they're battling for tournament games. OU and OSU both have been verge bubble teams in the NCAA tournament, trying to get to that 8-win mark in the Big 12, 9-win mark in the Big 12. They've both been right there. So Bedlam's always just been really big. Last year we got a fantastic finish. It didn't go the Cowboys' way, obviously. But I'm very excited for Bedlam basketball to be back. I do think it sucks. It's an unusual site, though, Preston. I wish it was on campus.
I think the whole Paycom, which obviously I know that Norman's closer to Oklahoma City than what Stillwater is, right? But I would say there's a good contingent of fans for both teams in the metro area.
Yeah. It'll be a packed arena, I think. I mean, at least the lower bowl would 100% be sold out. It's just more fun when it's at Gallagher Iba or Lloyd Noble, in my opinion. But the only thing is, if you played it, it's December 14th. All the students are going to be home during that time, so it wouldn't be the same. So I do understand why it is neutral site. I just wish they could find a way to open up some time slot in February to play it or something.
Yeah, that would be that'd be pretty fun. Although I don't know if they want to do that because I think both conferences are are pretty tough. So I
Yeah,
don't know if they would want to throw that game in there.
yeah. Big 12
Um,
SEC matchup will come back eventually, though. I'm sure, and I'm sure
yeah.
that
Oh
OU
yeah.
OSU will
That'll
get
be
those
on there.
we'll get
Yeah.
those slides together.
Yeah, that'll be pretty fun. All right, let's get into some college football stuff going on. A little bit of news. Oklahoma lands 5-star offensive tackle Michael Fasusi from Louisville, Texas. And look, I'm not going to come out and say I'm some recruiting, guru and I know all this stuff about these guys. But when you land a 5-star,
Mhm.
that's a pretty big deal. So the Sooners land a 5-star offensive tackle, committed on the 5th anniversary of him and his family coming to the U.S. from Nigeria. So pretty cool thing. And
Yeah,
all the things I saw from like Sooner Scoop, that's really the only people I follow when it comes to like OU recruiting and stuff like that. Say it's a pretty big time get. So shout out to Michael Fasusi.
yeah. Anytime you get the number 13 player in the country, no matter the position, it's a pretty impressive get. Uh, Bill Beatenbaugh. I mean, man, if I was a stud offensive tackle or offensive lineman or center guard, whatever the position is, it's
Yeah.
hard to turn away what Bill Beatenbaugh has done because he has made so many guys so much money. I mean, just think about right now in the NFL. You got Trent Williams and Lane Johnson. I mean, those guys are from. I guess they'll actually. I take that back, Preston. I sound stupid now that I say that because those aren't Bill Beatenbaugh prospects. Because Bill Beatenbaugh, I think, showed up in like 2012 or 2013. They're definitely way before it. They've definitely played at OU way before that. But nonetheless, he's made a lot of guys a lot of money. I mean, look at Creed Humphreys right now. He's the best center in the NFL. Gonna get, if he hasn't already, gonna get a huge, massive payday. I think 2-time All Pro already or Pro Bowl. So it's really hard to turn down Bill Beatenbaugh. It was also Bill Beatenbaugh's birthday yesterday, so that was
I
a good
did see that.
birthday,
Yeah.
good birthday gift for him as well. So I mean, congrats to Bill Beatenbaugh, Brent Venables and company, because that took them from I think the 13th to number 8, just like that, with one guy in the recruiting rankings. So yeah, definitely a big get for OU, and that everyone has questions about the offensive line this year, but I don't think there's going to be much going forward because it's definitely a guy you can build around.
Yeah, and a decent class for them offensive line wise as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they're going to have the best offensive line class out of 2025. I'm like you though. I'm not a recruiting guru in the slightest, but I obviously do follow the Student Scoop Boys and the On3 accounts, and
yeah.
yeah, so big get for sure.
Yeah, those are definitely the guys that are way more in the weeds on this stuff than what we are. I just sit there and look and read what they say. So pretty good stuff though.
Yeah,
Other
whatever they
stuff
say,
in
I'm just like,
college.
yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, sure. I'll go with that. Other things that dropped the other day since the last time we had an episode was the SEC drops their tiebreaker scenarios. I'll just read through all. What is this? 5 or 6 that they have here. The first one is head-to-head competition between the tied
Mm-hmm.
teams. So just head-to-head. If they played each other, that's easy enough, right? The second one, record versus all common conference opponents among the tied teams. So conference record, between, however many teams are tied. The third, record against highest, in parentheses, best placed common opponent in the conference standings and proceeding through the standings among the tied teams. The next one, cumulative conference winning percentage of all conference opponents among the tied teams. The next one, capped relative scoring margin versus all conference opponents among the tied teams. Formula will include a cap of 42 points scored on offense and 48 points allowed on defense. And then this is my favorite one, the very last one, a random draw of all the tied teams. It takes me back, Teabag, to Friday
I
Night
love it.
Lights.
Sicko. It's
and
sickos.
and they're at like the Whataburger or whatever in Odessa, Texas, or wherever they were at. And they flip the dime, and they make it into the playoffs. So my question is, if this scenario does happen, which fast food restaurant is the SEC going to meet at? Because my short list is obviously Whataburger, Bojangles,
Bojangles is
throw
Cookout.
in Cookout, Chick-fil-A, or we could even throw Brahms in there
Chick-fil-A.
as well.
Chick-fil-A. Its headquarters is the SEC headquarters.
Yeah, Atlanta. Yeah,
College Football Hall of Fame headquarters is the same. Yeah, it's got to be. I think it's going to be Chick-fil-A.
yeah.
It's a perfect representation of the SEC.
I do think. Go ahead.
It's insane, these tiebreakers. It's going to be every conference too. I mean, it's not just the SEC. I mean, think about the Big Ten. They got 2 more teams than everyone else does. So I want to throw this question at you, Preston. This is something I've thought about from the moment we realized we're going to have mega conferences. In the SEC, I think it's a little different in the SEC or Big Ten because I think they're probably in no matter what. But let's say we get down to those third that you gotta random draw it. Let's say you're a 10-2 LSU and you're a little beat up. Wouldn't you rather not play in the SEC championship and just take that 2.5 weeks off to recover, get a home field playoff game,
go into the playoffs,
compared to going and risk? I know if you win, then you get a bye week in the playoffs. I get that. But what if you go in there and you lose and you don't have a bye week either way? You'd probably just rather be like, I'd rather just not play the game and just get healthy and figure it out from there. And then especially if, let's say, I think it's going to be a very rare case where you're going to have a third Big 12 team. I think 2 out of every 3 years you'll probably get 2 Big 12 teams in. I don't think it's going to be in every year, but I think there's probably going to be about 2 out of every 3 years we'll have 2 Big 12 teams. But I think it's going to be very rare we get a third Big 12 team. But I was thinking about, let's just say this year, OSU, Utah, and Kansas State all go 10-2. And there's just a lot of disappointing teams in the Big Ten and a couple disappointing teams in the SEC. And it just so happens that there is that 12th, 11th, 10th spot available for a Big 12 team. As an OSU fan, if that was the case, I wouldn't want OSU to play in the Big 12 championship because it's like, well, if OSU goes and plays in the Big 12 championship and loses, now they're out compared to they could be in. So it's going to be – that's one of the downfalls of this conference realignment and mega conferences is there's just going to be a lot of this meaningless. You know, the SEC just means more, but there's going to be a lot of times where all around college football might just mean less because there's going to be moments where you're like, I'd rather just not play in the conference championship and just take the home field advantage or whatever and just get to the playoff.
Yeah, that's something that's crossed my mind the last couple of weeks is that, say you are – you have one loss heading to like the last week of the season, before the conference championships. And you're playing like, if you're in the SEC, you're playing like a Vanderbilt or something like that in week 12. Why not sit your guys that week? And then even obviously if you're undefeated or you have one loss, you probably have a good shot at making it to the SEC title game or your conference title game. So yeah, that's definitely something I've thought about is like, there's going to be teams that are going to be resting guys at some point. Obviously later in the season, it'll probably be like the last game. Or hell, it could even be like in the SEC, like OU plays Maine, right? And say in a different year where their schedule isn't just complete hell, they roll into that Maine game with one loss or undefeated, and they say, you know what, we can afford to sit a guy like. Yeah, exactly. We can afford to sit a guy like Jackson Arnold today or, whoever the quarterback is at that time. I think it's something that's probably going to happen.
So another one is it's along the same lines. Let's say this year, Michigan, Ohio State are both 11-0 going into the Michigan, Ohio State this year or just in future years. And they're both settled to play in the Big Ten championship no matter what the following week. Why would you play anyone in one of the two? The Big Ten championship more so you can get the bye week in the playoffs. But if it's Ohio State, Michigan, and Columbus, and you're guaranteed to play the next week, you're at that point you're going to be in the playoffs. If you're 11-0, 11-1, 11-2 Big Ten team, you're going to the playoffs. So what's the incentive to play that regular season game to your with all your guys and to your full ability and even if they do play all their guys, what's your incentive to not just keep it a very vanilla, basic game plan?
And I think guys would play that game because it's a massive rivalry game.
But they're going to play again the next week. The next week can be the rivalry game,
Yeah, but man, it's kind of like OU Texas, dude. Like if
do kids care as much though these days? That's another thing. I don't know if kids care as much about rivalries these days because the transfer portal and stuff. Like,
that's true.
I
But still,
just
yeah,
think
I
a lot
mean,
of this is changing.
that's one of those games though. When you think college football rivalries, you think OU Texas, you think the Iron Bowl, you think the world's biggest cocktail party or whatever they call it there. Those are the games you're thinking about. So I don't know. And it would be very interesting because it would be kind of the same case like Bedlam, right? It used to be like one of the last games of the season. And if OU and OSU were still in the same conference, they're headed to the conference title game the next week. I could still see those guys being like, no, we've got to go play this game, especially on Oklahoma
I
State
hope so.
side.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. That's what I want. It's just I think there's definitely a world out there where that is the case, is where it's like, you know, Will Howard's not going to play today or something because we need him for next week, and next week's more important. We're in the playoff no matter
Yeah.
what. So let's just whatever happens today happens. Let's try to go win next week, and if we don't, we're still in the playoff, even if we lose these 2 games. So
Yeah.
it's just there's a lot of positives with conference realignment, but there are a lot of negatives as well. And this is just one of them. Is just these mega conferences not playing everybody and expanded playoff. I just think they should get rid of conference championships. I think they should get rid of these Big Ten, SEC. I think we should just get to pretty much
just give it to whoever's ranked number 1.
32 teams. North of the whatever, I wouldn't say Mason-Dixon line because I don't think that'd be an even number of teams.
I 40.
But like, yeah. I'm 40. But just make a North and South or an AFC, NFC, whatever it is, with 32 teams in each, and then almost do it like baseball used to do. Where you only play teams from that side, and then in the playoffs or in the championship, whatever, like a Super Bowl or something. I don't know. I think that's where we're going to head eventually. I still think that's at least a decade away. But yeah, I think a lot of fans, whenever some of this stuff does pop up, not just that scenario we gave or even the scenarios we gave, but there's going to be some scenarios that pop up that the fans aren't going to like, and it's going to affect TV ratings and all this stuff. It's going to be fascinating to watch. But I think college football right now is just on a total foobar. Find out what the acronym means for yourself. I stole that one from Pat Jones today. But I think it's going to eventually correct itself back to a product, not to where it's going to be the original Big 12 and the original Pac-12 and all that together, but to where it's going to get kind of more regional again and not 18 teams in one freaking conference.
Yeah, that is that's very true. All right, but we're going to get into some fantasy football here in a second. If you've got any fantasy football questions, get in the chat, send those in. We'll answer those questions for you. But sticking with some college football, and we're going to jump down the topic list here because this is a story that caught my eye earlier today. And in this day and age, everyone's looking for money. They're on the prowl, trying to find some extra money for their programs. And one former, now we can say, Colorado, he was an assistant coach there at Colorado. He was on the
special
staff.
Teams.
He decided to take his talents to the Middle East and try and recruit the Saudi Arabians to get some NIL money for Colorado. This is one of the more wild NIL stories that has come out so far.
It's been a meme. That's the thing. It's been a legit meme of with like the live and the NIL kind of all happening together at the same time. The Saudis going to get involved in college football. Is Nick Saban going to go over and talk to the Saudis? It's literally been a meme. And Deion Sanders did it. Like he full on actually.
Shocker, right? What program would we have pinpointed to say they're going to go hit up the Saudis for millions and millions of dollars?
You know who my guess? If you would have asked me this time last year, my guess would have been like Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah,
because he is such a win at all costs guy. But obviously he's not in college football anymore. But yeah, now it does not surprise me at all. I mean, I blame Colorado in the sense it's like really I understand
you went there.
I understand the live players. Like if you get offered $200 million to work less,
oh yeah,
how can you say no? So I get when the live players take that quote unquote blood money, but when you're actively seeking out for your college football program because you want to, I don't even know. It's like that's what I'm like. You're actually going to go work with those guys for NIL money. Like that's come on now. Like let's have a little bit of integrity here with all this. Just a little. We don't need to have a lot, But
Yeah.
just
I
send,
I can't get too mad at the whole Saudi stuff because I'm a massive Formula One fan and they're definitely in the pockets of the Saudi royal family. So I can't say that I'm like so far against that. But
yeah,
look, you're a college program. You can't go over there and start asking for money. You can't do
yeah.
that.
No, that's how I am. It's whenever someone does offer you a lot of money for your current sport, I get it. Whatever, I'd probably do the same thing. If someone says I wouldn't take $200 million from the side, it's like you're lying. You're
Yeah.
lying. Everyone would take 200,000 or $200 million from anyone.
Yeah.
But with college football, that is a line where I'm like, okay, come on now. Like you don't need to do this for college football, Dion.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't can't be doing that, Dion. Definitely can't be doing that. Yeah. So I mean, never mind. I'm not even gonna say that. We'll move on now from that to let's see. I've got this question about a Big 12 team here. About the Kansas Jayhawks, and I was going through their roster. Obviously, I love the quarterback, Jalen Daniels. I think he's a great quarterback there for that's his name, right? I'm blanking.
Yeah,
Jalen Daniels. I get him and Jaden Daniels mixed up
I do too.
all the
I do
time.
too.
Um, but my thing is, should we worry about them being a bust this year if he gets hurt like he normally does? Because Bean, who has been the backup there, done a great job for him, is not there anymore. So they're going to have to rely on someone else. And if Daniels gets hurt like he has the last couple of seasons, I think they're in a pretty bad spot. As much as I like that team.
Yeah, I think another underrated thing, Preston, that people aren't putting into account for Kansas this year is they're playing in Arrowhead. They're not playing on campus this year,
I
so they're not
forgot
going to
about that.
have.
Yeah,
Now, granted, they're the University of Kansas in Kansas City. Like the stadium's going to be maybe not a sellout because it's a lot bigger stadium than what they're building about 45,000 seat stadium. Arrowhead's probably 70, 75,000. So obviously it's a lot bigger, but it's still going to get really, really full. Like I'm not saying they're going to be playing in an empty stadium, but I think a little bit has to do with taking away a minor home field advantage, not having the games on campus,
well,
not having
and
the true
I used
student
to live in
section.
the area, Teabag, and Kansas City and Lawrence aren't like necessarily right next to each
Solid,
other.
what, 35, 40 minutes?
Yeah, I was gonna say it'd be
Yeah.
like going from Norman to like Edmond for if OU played had to play like a UCO, which wouldn't happen, but something like that, right? So it's not like it's close either.
I mean, I just think about if you're a college student, now if you're a diehard Kansas fan, then obviously you're going to find a way to go. But not everyone is like just completely diehard.
They're gonna have to bust the
And
students in, don't you think?
something because it's going to be a pain for the students to like try to get, especially because they're not going to stay sober and they're not going to want to drive and
Yeah.
just to get all tailgates and stuff set up. I mean, yeah. So I think that is. I don't think it's going to be the difference of them winning the Big 12 or not. Like I don't think that's going to be the key difference. But I do think that has a little bit to play in it. I'm not as high on Kansas as everyone else is. I know they return a lot of offense production. Their defense has still been pretty bad. They have a manageable schedule. They don't. I think. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Kansas State is the only ranked team they play, but I think
Yeah.
Iowa is even a tough team at home. So they have potential to get there, but I'm not going to buy it quite yet. I think they're a good team. I think they're an 8-4, 9-3 team, but I don't know if they're going to be in the Big 12 talk like some people are saying.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Maybe it's just I like the quarterback too much. Maybe that's on me.
But like you said too, he gets hurt. He hasn't been healthy the last 2 seasons. So
Yeah, and they have a Moore Lion on the team, and that's my alma mater. So
is that their running back?
Yeah, Deuce Highshaw.
Yeah, yep.
Yes, he's pretty good. Former Moore Lion like myself. Week 0 does it doesn't do anything for me.
I mean, it's fun. I'm excited. Watch football and stuff. I'll be at the lake this weekend personally. So
Yeah.
I'll probably see like the first quarter before I'm on the boat. So, yep, that's my week 0 analysis. I'm excited football's back. I'm excited, but
Yes.
football, like it will feel like football season on Thursday night when I'm watching, an ESPN prime time.
Yeah.
Like
Colorado.
I think it's Colorado, North Dakota
Yep.
State. Yep. So
I think
that's what I'm looking forward
7
to.
p.m. next Thursday. So
Can't wait. Can't wait.
we'll be doing this show while
We'll
that's
be
going on.
live when
So we'll be
football's
able
kicking off.
to watch that and talk about that as it's going on. Okay, let's go ahead now and get into some fantasy football. Like I said, if you've got any of those questions, pop in the chat, ask them. We will get to those as we go along. But I wanted to play a little, I don't know, game is the right term for this, but we're going to give each position, we're going to give a stud, a sleeper, and a bust for this upcoming season. And for me, this was so hard because some of the positions I was like, man, I don't even know if there is any busts. I really like a bunch of these guys, without going too far down the list of players at that position. Because once you get past like 10 or 15, it's kind of like, all right, well, a bunch of these guys are just going to be busts because they're not going to be getting the big points like the rest of
and
these
you kind of
guys.
know it going into it too.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So we will start with the quarterback position. Teabag at quarterback. Who is what do you want to start with first? You want to start with bust first, or which way you want to
go? We'll start with stud. I think that's
Okay.
just kind of the easiest one to throw out there. Stud, Lamar Jackson. Fantasy football, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, he's gonna be everywhere on that field. I have very, very high hopes for the Baltimore Ravens. Jack on YouTube. Yes, we are taking questions. Pop in the chat. Ask away. My stud at the quarterback position is going to be Jalen Hurts. I think the Eagles bounce back from whatever happened to them last year at the end of the season, and I think they get things corrected. I think adding Saquon to that offense, I've been saying it for like a month now straight, but I think adding Saquon does a lot for them there. So my stud at the quarterback is going to be Jalen Hurts.
I like it. He's a great fantasy quarterback, especially when they get towards the goal line. Be interesting to watch the tush push this year without Jason Kelce, though.
That will, and I just completely forget that he's gone from there.
Yeah.
Now at this point, he'll be in the Monday night booth, I believe now. Jason Kelce will be. So, yeah, it's gonna be a good season, I think, for the Eagles. I'll go ahead and give my sleeper real quick. It's a guy that I've fallen in love with the last month or so. That's Jordan Love. I think he's going to be a sleeper this season. I think he's a guy that you can get later in your draft, and he's going to produce for you. So I would circle Jordan Love if you're like, I don't know, I would say probably round 6 through 10 is somewhere where he could be picked. Probably, more like 7 or 8 if I had to pinpoint actual rounds. But I'm really high on Jordan Love this year.
No comment. But since you decided to take my rival quarterback, I'm gonna take a rival of your quarterbacks. I got Bo Nix.
Bo Nix. Oh,
Bo Nix. He started a lot of games in college. Look, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you he's gonna be a 10-time Pro Bowl quarterback or anything. But if you're just talking a very late round draft pick, a quarterback that can get you some points consistently, I think Bo Nix is going to be up there. Sean Payton's gone on and on about how perfectly he fits his offense. He's going to come in ready. He started 5 whole years in college football. He didn't redshirt any of those years. He started 5 years. I think it's 61 total games he played. Yeah. He's done really good in preseason. Everyone's had high praise on him. So I'm expecting a good year out of Bo Nix. And I think, if he's available, I'm not saying even start him at the beginning, but if you have a full roster and you're just looking for someone to take Bo Nix as a backup quarterback. So I think he could produce some good numbers throughout the season.
We'll see. Like the great Patrick Mahomes said a couple years ago about Justin Herbert, I'll see it when I believe it, or whatever he said. He said
now that I think about it, you're gonna hate me now that I think about it.
So we'll move on to bust. Go ahead and give your bust. And Jack, we'll get to your question here after we finish up the quarterbacks, because we're going to talk running backs next.
Can you see?
Oh God. Yeah. Okay.
Got a Snapchat in the middle of that. Justin Herbert. Preston, I haven't touched this list.
I can't hate on you for it, but I don't like it. All right. That's what I'll say.
I am higher on the Chargers this year. I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to win the division or anything, or be a for sure playoff team. And I'm not saying Justin Herbert sucks. I just think that people are going to get confused with the name Justin Herbert this year and what he could actually produce in fantasy football terms
No,
with
you're right.
points. So he doesn't have a perennial wide receiver right now. If any wide receivers, I mean, as you've complained about, I think they're going to be kind of more of a run game team. So yeah, when you're just talking fantasy points, I think Justin Herbert. I think a lot of people are going to overvalue him just because of name.
Yeah, and that's a guy that's going even later than Jordan Love in the draft. So be wary. As someone who loves Justin Herbert, I'm saying this: be wary. Although we did have an update in camp. Quentin Johnson did have a one-handed touchdown catch, so we might be back in. So we'll see. My bust, man, and people are going to say you're an idiot, you're dumb, and that's true. But I think my bust this year is going to be Josh Allen.
Oh, I was going to guess it. I was going to guess Josh Allen.
I don't know if I believe in the Bills this year, just based on everyone that they've lost over the offseason, defense, offense. Obviously, losing Stephon Diggs is massive. They lost Gabe Davis as well. The number one option right now might be Keon Coleman going into the season, and he's a rookie. So that kind of gives me a little bit of pause there when it comes to Josh Allen.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I think it's kind of the same thing as it's kind of like the Herbert. I think a lot of people are just going to like base it off name, like, oh, Josh Allen, and just take it, not without a full grip. So it's like, hey, fantasy football is different than kind of like real life when you're talking like if you're trying to win or not. So
yeah,
I don't necessarily hate the pick. I don't necessarily hate it.
He is also
the busts are hard.
Yeah, very, and he's also the number one.
Can you hear my phone chiming?
I cannot. No, I was going to ask if you could hear the neighbor mowing his yard right outside my window. So
my Mac just like randomly will give me like old phone notifications, like it doesn't keep up. And like I haven't gotten any text, but just go bing all of a sudden. I'm like, where is this coming from? I check my text, I have nothing. So,
all right, let's move on. Let's move on now to running backs. We'll answer Jack's question real quick, since he's been waiting for a couple of minutes. So Jack says, for my RB1, my realistic options are Jamar Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, and Saquon in a full PPR league. Teabag, if you had to pick one of those three to be your RB1, which one are you going with?
I'm going to go with Jahmyr Gibbs just based off offensive line. They've got the best offensive line in football, the Detroit Lions. So I think he kind of really came on last year. I had him on fantasy. He started a little slow. He had some, misses in some games, but he was a rookie. I do like him a lot going in this year. Now, there's a lot of weapons, but my second option for that would also be Saquon. But the Eagles have a lot of massive too. So I'm just going to go based off offensive line between Jahmyr and Saquon. So give me Gibbs.
A little banged up heading to the season, but they said he should be good to go week 1. So just think about that as well. And Jack, these two answers probably aren't going to help you much because I'm going to go Jonathan Taylor. I think he's due for a bounce back season. Had the contract stuff to begin last season. I think Jonathan Taylor might be a decent running back this year. I would not be scared to have him as my RB1 going into the season. I think the Colts will be a sneaky team this year in the AFC. What is that, South?
Jack, why do you have Jason Tatum as your profile picture? Put that in the chat for me. Are you a Celtics fan?
He's got to be a Celtics fan, or maybe a St. Louis guy.
We need to update that to Shay.
Okay, let's move on to our stud running backs. While we're on the topic, Jonathan Taylor's my stud. I think he's going to have a great season. Just basically what I just said.
I got CMC. Just kind of goes without saying. Christian
Can't go wrong with that. Yeah. Jack does say he is a Celtics fan. Jack, right, do you live in Oklahoma City, man? I mean, come on. We need to get
what if he's like, who are these guys? What's the sports animal? And he's like, oh, fantasy football questions.
Okay, so you said your stud was McCaffrey. I have Jonathan Taylor for my running back sleeper. And people are going to say, I don't know if that's much of a sleeper, but I'm going Derrick Henry. I think that he's going to be great in that Baltimore offense. I have him on one of my dynasty teams. I put him on the trade block. Wasn't quite getting what I wanted for him. And that just kind of told me that a lot of people are down on Derrick Henry right now. And I don't know why, because he's going to a team that historically has a good offensive line, is able to run the football with, average guys, I would say. maybe just slightly above average. But you got Tractor Cito rolling into town, who, yeah, he's getting close to 30. He's a little old for a running back, but look, I think he's still got some gas left in the tank, and I think he's going to have a good season this year.
I love that pick. I think I'm with you. I think Derek Henry's going to have a great season. I think it's going to take the Ravens to the next step. Lamar, again, going to have to see it in the playoffs with Lamar Jackson, but I think we'll get there eventually. Usually the great ones figure it out. It might take them a while, but Peyton Manning figured it out after a while. So usually the great ones tend to figure it out, and I think Lamar is a great one. So I do like that pick a lot, Preston. I got a true sleeper, and I got two of them, if that's okay.
Yeah.
One's a homer pick, and one's an anti-homer pick. So Rico Dowdle of the Cowboys, because came in last year. No one really knows who he is.
They still don't.
But he's going to come in. He's going to be RB2, but I just not sold on Ezekiel Elliott at all. So they're going to have to hand that ball off to someone. They're going to have to check that ball down to someone. And so I'm going to go with Rico Dowdle, and then my homer pick, but I do think it's a genuinely a good pick, is Jalen Warren of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think him and Najee Harris are very neck and neck, and when you're talking running backs, Jalen's got to stay healthier. He hasn't been unhealthy necessarily, but he's been banged up, so that needs to happen. But I think Jalen Warren and Rico Dowdle, if you're talking late rounds, you can find some good value in there.
Yeah, I agree. Plus, that Pittsburgh offense is an offense that's looking for a playmaker, and Warren could be that guy. I really liked him last year, and I do still like him this season. My bust, and for me, the running back position was so hard to pick a bust because I was like, I like a lot of these guys. I'm just going straight off vibes here of the team, and that's Travis Etienne Jr. is going to be my bust. I'm just not feeling the Jags this year.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Jags. I like Travis Etienne Jr. a lot. I am kind of with you on the Jags, though. It's I don't know what it is. It's the Jags, I guess. I'm going to go with Kyron Williams from the Rams. And I was telling you off before the show, off air, kind of just based off injury. He's finished the season on injured reserve the last 2 seasons. So I think a lot of people are going to see the Rams. And
he was awesome, though, during the middle part of the season.
He was. But
man, most of that was just touchdowns, though. He was going in like at the 5-yard line and scoring a lot. So.
And like you said, the running back's just the hardest one to pick. So I just had to kind of go off, injury history. So Kyron Williams for me.
Not a. I almost thought about picking him, but he's on one of my fantasy teams, so I got to be a little biased here, and hope for a good season from him. Yeah, it's in a league that I'm coming off a dynasty championship, so I've got to try and get 2 in a row. Before my team is just too old and I have to trade everyone.
The rebuild.
And rebuild. All right, let's go on to wide receivers. My stud at the wide receiver position is a guy that I love, and I'll be talking a lot about on Sundays, hopefully, if he stays healthy. That is Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Detroit Lions. I think he is an absolute stud when it comes to a fantasy football wide receiver.
Yeah, one of the best wide receivers in the league. Crazy dad, which he's
a little bit crazy too, man.
You gotta hate from the relationship standpoint, but you love from the football standpoint. So I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's a good one. Mine was pretty easy. He's got to sign a contract first, but I'm going with CD Lamb just because once he does sign the contract, I think they'll get it done. Once that gets done, who else is Dak gonna hand the ball to? I know CD's going to get double teamed a lot and stuff, but I still think CD is a top 3 wide receiver in the league right now. Whether he's getting double teamed or not, I think he's going to find a way to get open, and the Cowboys will rely on him. So my stud is going to be CD Lamb.
I'm a trust tree here. I thought about putting him at my bust because of the contract situation. I did not, though. We'll get to that here in just a little bit. My sleeper at the wide receiver position is a guy who one of the best receivers just came to his team. They've got another great receiver there. He finished the season on the IR because he broke his leg or whatever happened to him. That's Tank Dell. I think the dude is awesome. He was awesome last year with CJ Stroud. Going to be healthy this year. The guy got shot during the offseason. He's back from that as well. Full strength, and I think Tank Dell is going to have a great season just because there's going to be so many other, they're going to have to, double either Nico Collins, him, or Stephon Diggs at times, and that's going to leave one of those three guys open. And I'm just banking on that being Tank Dell.
Yeah, no, I'm with you with Tank Dell. He's a total stud. I'm not high on Stephon Diggs this year. I didn't put him in my best. I got someone else. My best we'll get to in a second. But yes, Tank Dell, very high on this year. I think he's going to have a phenomenal season. I think him and CJ Stroud instantly built a connection last season, and I can see that continuing forward this season.
Yeah, for sure. So was he your sleeper as well?
Oh no! Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I already got on sleeper. I did not. I got one where it was I forgot he was on this team until a couple of weeks ago. I think Traber was the one talking about it actually because he was talking about how much he hates him. Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson for the Carolina Panthers. And I know
Panthers, okay.
Panthers suck. Bryce Young still has a lot of questions. But they got, what's his name? The Bucs offense coordinator that was Baker's OC this last season. Be their head
Canales
coach.
Or something like that.
Yeah, Dave Canales. Yeah. And so I think the Panthers are going to be improved. Like, they won 2 games last year, so it's not going to take a lot for them to improve.
Yeah.
They could go 5-12, and that's improved. I think they're going to be a little improved. I think Bryce Young's going to be a little improved. Is he going to be a CJ Stroud? Probably not. I don't see that happening as of right now. But I think he can have a better season, and Deontay Johnson is the best player on that team. So I like Deontay Johnson as a sleeper.
At least I'm not the only one that thinks that the Panthers are going to have a little bit of a bounce back season this season. I think that they'll be not like a decent team, but they'll be better than what they were last year.
Scarred people.
Yes, very much. Okay, so bust. I think there's a pretty clear bust at wide receiver. I'm interested to see who you picked, but for my bust, I went with Davante Adams of the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm not necessarily high on the Raiders this season. The quarterback position is going to be Gardner Minshew, I believe, is going to be the starting quarterback there. I don't know. I just don't see it with them. So I think, plus they lose a couple games, he's going to be wanting to be traded. If they start the season like 0-3, 0-4, he's going to be demanding a trade. So my bust this year is going to be Davante Adams.
I like that one. I went with one. I might take it back now that I've thought about it. I put Keenan Allen.
Okay.
And my reason was I don't think he's going to be bad. I don't think that at all. I think he's going to be really good and really productive. I think you should have him on your fantasy team. I don't think he should be a top end draft pick. I think he should be maybe
later
a bench
rounds
guy because I really do think. I mean, DJ Moore is wide receiver 1, no question about it. They just paid him $100 million. I think Robodunze is an absolute stud. I mean, I think he's going to absolutely solidify himself at wide receiver 2. I think Cole Kmet at tight end is a really good tight end. There's always that drop of tight ends that we talked about last show, Preston.
Yeah.
Cole Kmet's kind of at the beginning of that drop. So he's not that he's a total stud. But rookie wide receiver or rookie quarterbacks love to check it down to tight ends or running backs whenever they feel like they need some help. Yeah. So I think Keenan Allen is going to be the third option. I'm not saying he's going to be the fourth option on this team. He is going to be the third option, but I think he is aging a little. He's been nothing but productive, as you know, more than anyone. But I think he's going to be a wide receiver 3 on this team. I think it's kind of like the same I said about, Justin Herbert and Kyron Williams. The name might sound – or not Kyron Williams, when we were talking about Josh Allen too. The name might seem more appealing than the value.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. I would advise the Bears to just go watch like the last couple of years of Herbert and Keenan Allen because I think he can be a great like security blanket for them because he is one of the best route runners in the NFL, whether people want to, say it or not. He's a great route runner. And most importantly, he catches footballs. So I think he's going to be a great security blanket for Caleb Williams this year.
I think he's gonna have a really good season. Like I just said, like I think he's probably
it's not going to be like what he has been. Yeah.
6th, 7th round kind of guy.
Yeah.
But once you said, you brought into my minds, they're probably going to be double teaming DJ Moore, and he's probably going to find a way to get open more than Roma Dunze. Even though I do think Roma Dunze is going to be wide receiver 2 and it's going to be a stud.
And
A
look,
veteran guy or a rookie,
yeah.
he's probably going to find it. So right whenever I started to think about it, I was like, maybe not Keenan Allen, but I had to stick to it. I had to stick to my guns.
And there's not a better like route runner and wide receiver. It's for a rookie wide receiver to learn from than Keenan Allen. So he's done it the right way his whole entire career. And I'm not just saying that because he's one of my favorite Chargers of all time, but I am saying it because of that. So all right, let's move on to the final position, and then we'll talk a little defense as well. The tight ends. For me, the stud was a very clear 1-1 pick for stud. That's Sam Laporta. The dude is a monster. He catches touchdowns. He gets yards. He's just a do-it-all everything for the Detroit Lions. So Sam Laporta is my stud tight end going into this season.
I'm completely with you. I love Sam Laporta. It was between him and Travis Kelce, but I got to go with Sam Laporta. I think he is the best. Well, maybe most productive tight end in the NFL right now. I still would probably lean Travis Kelce if we're talking the best, but most productive. I'll take Sam Laporta.
And I could definitely see Kelce having a bounce back season from last year. But if you have a chance,
still like 980 yards.
Right. If you have a chance to get Laporta in your draft, like round 2, I think is probably where he'll go. Do it because he's going to put up some points at a position that kind of, like we say all the time, it drops off at a certain point. So my sleeper this year, and this is a guy that I've been wanting to come along for a few years now since he got into the league. The coach just didn't use him the right way. Kyle Pitts. I think that he has a chance to shine this year under new head coach. Knew everything down there, quarterback, all that. I think Kyle Pitts in Atlanta has a chance to be a special talent this year if they finally decide to use him the right way.
I'm totally with you. I have Kyle Pitts as well. Getting Kirk Cousins in is going to help a lot. Then they obviously have Bijan Robinson at running back. So I love Kyle Pitts. So I'm with you on that one.
By the way, sleeper.
I've also taken Kyle Pitts the last 3 years, and the definition of insanity is trying to.
Well, I'm saying I want him to be good so bad that I keep going back to him, and I'm hoping this year is finally the year. Also, a sleeper wide receiver just throw out there, Drake London, on the Falcons as well. He puts up some yards.
I had him last year,
so make sure you have him circled as well. Probably around 4 or 5, somewhere in there. I would think Drake London would go. All right, my bust at tight end, again, going off vibes. I don't like this team that much this year. Evan Ingram of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Same. So we were 2 for 3 together on tight end. I just feel like maybe I'm just wrong, and maybe I haven't watched him enough or something, or maybe I just haven't looked at this enough. I think Evan Ingram is kind of consistently overrated.
Yeah.
I feel like people always talk about him being this big stud, and kind of look at. I guess I should go look at his numbers before I say this, but I'm gonna go look those up real quick. But I just feel like he's always in the best category.
I think in Jackson, he's a guy that could have a touchdown or 2 a game, but he's not scoring. Like Laporta is probably going to get a touchdown every game. Kelsey's going to get close to probably having a touchdown every game. There's guys that you can basically pencil in to get a touchdown, and I don't think Evan Ingram is one of those guys.
No, I'm looking at it now. I mean, so he's had a lot of yards for a tight end. 408 is his lowest, and he only played in 15, or I guess that's the majority of games. But even at 467 in 2019 and 8 games before getting hurt, but total touchdowns for a career is 24. So this is his 8th year in the league, and he only has 24 touchdowns.
8 already? Oh my God. He's been in 8 years already?
This is his 8th season.
Man.
I know. I met him in New Orleans, actually, when I was down there for the Ole Miss OC Sugar Bowl. We were walking down the street, and we're waiting in line for something, and I knew he was a total stud. And I was like, "Are you Evan Ingram?" And I was 15 at the time, and he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "You're a stud, dude." He's like, "Yeah."
New Orleans, what a time that is down there for especially the Sugar Bowl. I've been down there OU versus Auburn Super Bowl, so versus I should say. All right, so let's get into defenses now. We've talked a little bit about this on air up at the Sports Animal. I know you like the Bears defense. You've turned me into a believer on the Bears defense as well. I would throw out other names like the Ravens. They normally have a great defense. The Jets probably will have a good defense this year. If I'm missing anyone, let me know. I'm trying to think of other defenses, but right there's 3 good defenses I would say to kind of circle. The Cowboys probably will have a good defense.
I think the Chiefs have a really good defense.
Yeah, and I'm going to pull up the rankings actually for defenses real quick and see exactly who is ranked. Oh, come on, I accidentally hit the wrong button. We don't want wide receivers, we want defense. Okay, so the top defense, they say the Browns are going to be the top defense. 49ers, Cowboys, Jets, Ravens are top 5. So do you play in too many leagues that play defenses?
I think 2 out of my 3 play defense. So
okay, yeah. So only 1 out of my 3 play defense, and that's kind of like the friends type thing where we all were just like, yeah, we're gonna keep defenses. By the way, if you're playing a league with kickers, just scrap that and add like another flex spot. I would say you don't need to be playing any kickers.
I'm not kidding, Preston. In 2019, I'll never forget this. I was down 23 points, and all I had was the Bears defense, and they're playing the Commanders. It was like Thursday night football or something, just a terrible game. And the Bears defense and special teams literally got me like 29 points in the game to win the fantasy football.
And that
it was Monday Night Football, I think. It was Monday Night Football. And literally got me like 29 points to like win the game.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God. And as a Bears fan, it was just because you're rooting for your team to like, you're watching your defense suffocate someone and get like 3 pick sixes and like a punt return for a touchdown. So you're watching your own team doing that. And then secondly, when it's like to come back in fantasy and you're like, stop him. It was an exhilarating feeling. But that was probably like a once in a lifetime feeling you ever get with a fantasy defense.
And that's the thing, like defenses, can score a crazy, they get a fumble at the 3 and they run it in for a touchdown, something like that. That's a quick 7 points for them right there. So, but they can also get you negative points, which is also very bad as well. Are you of the opinion it's okay to stream a defense week to week? Because I do that sometimes where maybe I slip up and I don't get one of the better defenses. I just stream matchup wise when it comes to defenses.
I've done that plenty of times. Yeah, unless it was like the only time I really ever draft a top end defense is if I have everyone I want, and then you have like a top 3 defense waiting right there. Then I'm like, okay, I'll take them with this right here. But for the majority of the time, I just kind of do what you said. Like I just kind of just go off based off matchups. If I like, for example, last year, whenever Aaron Rodgers got hurt, I went against the Jets a lot with the defense. And it worked out for me.
Yeah, because I think Zach Wilson was throwing like an interception every game.
Yeah.
Or
not throwing any touchdowns.
Yeah. Another question I have here, how important is the tight end position? Because I think the tight end position I value a tight end a lot more than what other people might when it comes to fantasy football. That's why I like to get one of the top 3 or 4 guys that those guys are going to produce. After that, it's kind of a drop off. So how much do you value the tight end position when it comes to fantasy football?
If you have a stud, it can be a game changer.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say a lot, but I value it, man. For me personally, I try to get one of the top echelon tight ends. I didn't 5 years ago. But now that there's so many, when I say so many, there's a solid 5 tight ends you can get that you're going to like on a fantasy team. So I try to get one of those guys kind of early now, especially with the depth you can find at wide receiver. So I do value the tight end. I don't want to say it's a make or break because last year I didn't have I think I drafted Cole Kmet as my tight end and I didn't have it. And I was still able to make the playoffs in the league. So I don't think it's a make or break, but I definitely value it. And I like getting a good tight end because tight ends inside the 10, they can become very valuable.
Yeah, for sure. And who doesn't like a tight end, right? Rankings wise, I mean, you have Kelsey's going to be, they say, number 1. This is all via ESPN. Laporta 2, Andrews 3, Trey McBride of Arizona 4, Dalton Kincaid 5. And I think after that, I would even probably say Kelsey, Laporta, Andrews is like the elite of the elite tight ends. And then you have the next group of tight ends, which would be the McBrides, Kincaid, Kittle, Njoku, hopefully Kyle Pitts, and then it drops off again. Yeah, I think tight end is a position that you should probably definitely value when it comes to your fantasy football team. Last one for fantasy football / NFL. Are we getting a little too overhyped on Anthony Richardson?
Maybe. I think I like him personally from what we saw and what I saw at Florida in his style.
Yeah.
But one, he's got to stay healthy. And two, my sample size is very small. So I am subject to change on that. I guess you could say maybe we're getting a little overhyped, though, because I think a lot of people are just like.
I mean, rankings-wise, Teabag, he's the number 5 quarterback in fantasy football. Number 5.
Okay.
He played like
then
2 games.
Maybe we are getting a little over ahead of ourselves if he's number 5. I think he can be that. I think he could be that. But to already do that is, maybe we're getting a little ahead of our skis.
For sure. All right, one last thing I wanted to bring up, a little baseball. I'm a baseball guy. I don't know about you, Teabag. I don't think you are. There's not too many of us out there.
Beyond casual.
I need to vent a little bit about my St. Louis Cardinals because I am convinced that the ownership hates the fans. Now, I'm saying all this, Teabag. They just won on a grand slam home run last night, and they beat the Brewers again today, 3-0. So I'm saying that them coming off 2 wins in a row in the last 24 hours, less than 24 hours. So for such a great team with so much history in a city that does nothing but crave baseball. I mean, they call them the best fans in the country, in baseball for a reason. But this is also could be me just being spoiled because they're the only team that's won anything in my lifetime.
No, you're not being spoiled. They're the St. Louis Cardinals, man.
Yeah.
They're what, the second most successful franchise?
Yeah. I mean, they've won the most World Series. And the fan turnout hasn't been under like 30,000 for I don't know how long until the last handful of games. It's been below 30,000. Ownership doesn't want to spend money, which again is something that a lot of baseball teams are doing right now. But you look at the Dodgers and how much money they have wrapped up in just 2 guys in Ohtani and Yamamoto. For me, it just drives me nuts when you have a team like the St. Louis Cardinals being run by someone that doesn't want to spend the money to put a good product out on the field. And I want that to happen so bad because I just absolutely love the St. Louis Cardinals.
There's nothing worse than whenever you think your owner is just out to get you. Because as a Bears fan, I understand that feeling. My majority of my fanhood, I've understood that feeling. It is. I hear Curtis complain about the Cardinals a lot. I feel like they've been very hot and cold this year too.
Oh, amazingly hot and cold.
Believe.
It's crazy, yeah.
They'll get you to believe, and then they'll just take that joy away from you really quick.
No, like I said, I mean,
I don't know.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I don't know a whole lot about the current state of the MLB. I keep up with the standings, and that's kind of really about it. But I feel for you because I do understand what crappy ownership looks like.
Yeah, because it's like, obviously I typed this up at like 7 p.m. last night. They go on to like 10 innings last night. Arenado hits a grand slam to win it. And then they win today 3-0. And it's like, I forget what The Godfather, whatever movie it is, like you pulling me back in, just as soon as I'm done with them, they find a way to pull me right back in. And it's just a never-ending cycle of me saying they're done for, they're back, they're done for, they're back, and I'm done right now. I'm done.
Just stay done.
If they make the playoffs, they make the playoffs. If not, we'll regroup for next year and see what can happen next year.
Well, I'll keep you in my sports prayers.
All right. All right, that's going to do it for us. We'll be back on Tuesday next week. Don't forget, once NFL season starts, we'll be on Sunday afternoons in between the afternoon games and the Sunday night game. We'll recap a little things going on, that Sunday. Next week, we'll do some previews for OU and OSU because it'll be game week next week. We're
believe.
8 days away from Oklahoma playing, 9 days away from Oklahoma State playing. So we're right around the corner, and football couldn't be closer. I'm going to be out tomorrow watching some high school football. It's going to be a great season, I hope.
Can't wait. We did it, boys. We did it. We made it to football season. It's here.
Finally. It's
here.
Finally here. All right, that's going to do it for us. We'll talk to you guys again on Tuesday. Have a great one, guys.